Everybody has a copy of the handout. Can you pass this?
Allez, tu ne dis dire OK. Ani samol samdi test de les choses ra. Neta tana ngudi tambudi ndendo ra sanchi. Shouldn't trouble.
So I want to extend my warmest greetings to all of you, Tashi Dilek. And as always, before we begin the session, we started with a prayer. Page number 6, if you have the prayer book with you. So maybe if you cannot hear properly, you can move a little bit up.
Soje jona la e chanjo bade dani chazoji dage jinzoji be sonanji dola benje sanje dobarejo sanje chona soje jona la e chanjo bade dani chazoji dage jinzoji be sonanji dola benje sanje dobarejo Sanje Jodan, Soje Jona La, Chanjo Bade, Dani Chazochi, Dagi Jinzo Jibe, Sonam Ji, Dola Penche, Sanje Dubare, Sho, Sumje, Tanji Dewa, Devi Jodan, Dembare Juji, Dunye Da, Dunye Ge, Jodan Dewa Juji, Dunye Mebe, Dewa, Damba, Daimin Dewa Juji, Nirin chada nyindan tiye danyan chimbola neba juji sumjen tangje dewa devi judan dembar juji dunye da dunye ge judan dewa juji dunye mebe dewa damba daimin dewa juji Nirin chada nyindan tiye danyan chimbola neba juji Sumjen tangje dewa devi judan demba juji nyanda dunye ge judan dewa juji dunye mebe dewa damba daimin dewa juji Nirin chada nyinda devi danya nyambala dewa juji
아니 참말라 선리시다 챕지도 타타링은 저 주제디 아니 제셀라는 소대 말와 네디 응운에 타네 칼로다 먼저 슬로카 숨주 소대 마다 여 말데 소소 미스나로 오네 디가라 소소게 냠네 치토이나 오네 타네 페야고도 아니 지당기 디나로라 다칼로 제소 파신 투다 아니 만부지 시기도 와 저디 잠보포도 서서는 우주 토미 잠보 선들시라 아니 코란 케야디 이동 머치동 니자 고주 고고도 아니 제주르샤 아니 코란 사자바이 케바지체 아니 코란게 아니 짬나샤 디에 칼라나 산지선비 쥐발은 주바다 아니 람렘다 자니라 람지룸바다 자니라니 아니 냠네 치수열 스모다 근데지르샤
So then the text that we will study in the course of the next few days is the 37 practices of all the Bodhisattvas. And even though the text encompasses only 37 verses, but these 37 verses are profound in their nature if we can inculcate, act, and practice them in our daily lives. And in this text, we will cover what is called the 6 perfections. How someone who aspires to become a bodhisattva, and how someone who aspires to generate the awakening mind of bodhicitta within themselves must take it upon themselves to cultivate the 6 perfections. Now, this text was composed by the great Tibetan master Ngulchu Thokmey Sangpo, and historically he is placed somewhere between 1299 to the 14th century, and he is considered one of the great Sakyaba masters of his time. And the manner in which he approaches this text is to help us outline a comprehensive, to make a comprehensive outline of the greater classical text on bodhisattva, the practice of bodhisattva and the awakening mind of bodhicitta, such as Shantideva's Bodhicharya Avatara, or engaging the deeds of bodhisattva, as well as he seems to outline the practices that are highlighted in Atisha's text, Lamb on the Path to Enlightenment. Less.
다 간조게 남두인 로단 로질레 간조게 나초 모트로 지체 안에 칠루튼디 칸데 소웨메다 아니 소조게 칼로레 아 지니마니마 냠네 체당로도야 디치포 마임바 헬슨 치포 마임바 엔 티술레야 간조 디진데히 제 터시당겨라 아니 디 가르치니 케첨벌란 타찬즈 타르본 레 엔치디가라다 소소야 lep센데 요르데야 디 마임베게 치 셰자지 소소라와이나로 니레 지당 간조델 고 강투투기 고데오다 아니 틱드즈마이나 레하부로치 아 탑시당기라 즉 차고터 언제는 난디난 치가라 고도시라 메와다 치지가라 시라 고도면은 깔리카고 차이라 제저 조딩 간조베 즉 차보즈에 표지단한테 개체모 말했죠 간조 강한 시바디 처럼설라 팬바다라 아니 가나 즉 생줄은 저런도는 미조데 티차고라
So then, maybe before we start exploring the text, it is important, I think, to address the manner in which I would like to approach the text. Before we approach the text, I would like to offer some sort of a short introduction to what exactly is Buddhism, what does spirituality or the practice of spirituality means in Buddhism. And based on these discussions, we will also explore the importance of developing religious harmony in this day and age, and how we as people who strive for spiritual practices must pay attention to our actions, behaviors, thoughts and attitudes in our daily lives, and how that is the basis upon which we can cultivate our spiritual practice. And I would also like to address any kind of expectations that you might have with regards to the course, even though the scope of the course, of course, pertains to the text that we will study, but I would also like to maybe take the time to address any other expectations that you might have with which you approach this course. And the manner in which I like to approach our discussions on the text is I always take the approach that it should be presented in an easy to understand manner without resorting to using technical Buddhist terms which maybe might not really be helpful for you if you do not have a foundational understanding of these Buddhist technical terms. So as such, that is my approach to present the discussion and to encourage discussion with by presenting these instructions in an easy to understand manner, using as accessible a mode of instruction as is possible. And because I think we should be able to use this text to achieve the effect that it has some transformation on the manner in which we approach our daily lives. Yes.
Tene chitang ita di gombai di kita mo dashi doje na nganzu Thosamling le ora shana zina de la chige kalore Thoba chaga do isle ra ani de la Thoba de la samantang chitang Thosamling le the de gala nganzu chik khari ne chik gen da sin laman khari na ma chik nye nganzu ma koya do ma nye do tende la ora ta sam la de gala ani susu kan Thoba de le ani samantang ne ra chik nye khari chigu la ne 되게 삼았다 더삼 링레드다 되게 고유도다 링가라는 쉐이도 되게 민민도 되는 차레스 아니 단데디 샤 때문에 가르치는 좀 마셔라 홀랜드라 그런 아니 코랑에 찰래 아니 장물라 그래 아니 코랑 가디네 다 단데디 슈요 마다 지나 망세 데레 슈리가라 아니 베 칼레제네 라 다테잔데 마지디야 니 곰바들라야 아니 고젠다로 다 레가 치니 망보라 참에 칼레제네 간다직 러브존 치니 단다 녜마야 망보지 dena labju chiere ani dizan kashi shizo nala sheshi shitunie do nganzo ende ngoshe badene dura ngema nga mayun khune labju chedi ni de che ani ngazo de le chabi jela ya chuma hashi dene labju che kaga kanga ro jang ani chi loritari no nyu jang ani chungo shembala dene ba labju che pheyu ta thada namdrling da ani monkodla yura ande ani sara hal tolabira tuzula paya juthuye gitende labju chedi ni dene mambo yura 제자 아니다 단다 마오 바이나야 칼리칼리 단도 로주치 미튼 되고라 근데 일리 질라야 당랑 알아서래 좀 치네 아니 간서 로주치기요래 아니 단다 코나 기주이나 배야버라 아니 간서 찍기 소소 데바팅 파치 소소 강시지나 코라기 주마투와 난다요 말라 대 인자 땅아도 디 참마게 배주 야보치 땅에 니만 뉴뉴마도 메바이나야 딜라 카요라예게 지금 그런서 자에 데바이바 나시지가 저기 So then
maybe we can start with a short introduction to the place itself, the institute, and maybe if we understand the history behind the institute and the work that the institute does, then maybe this might help you to make sense of the time that you are about to spend here the next few days. So the name itself, Thosamling. So Thosamling in Tibetan means a place of study and contemplation. Tho literally means listening. So in the classical Tibetan Buddhist context, listening refers to study. Studying or listening to the teachings from your teachers, spiritual teachers, and then taking upon yourself to contemplate on these teachings. So that is the environment that the name wants to create for the participants, for the residents here, that this is a place of study and contemplation. And it was founded by Langri Thangpa, who is a Buddhist nun from Holland. Right now, she is out of the country, not here, but she really took it upon herself and saw the need for such an environment for international Buddhist women, those who strive to understand and want to practice these Buddhist teachings. So, with the effort and the vision of Langri Thangpa as the founder and director, and the contribution from so many other staffs, then this environment at this point is possible for anyone who is interested in studying and practicing these Buddhist teachings. And the place has been quite successful in creating such an environment and providing the support for those who really want to dedicate themselves to the study of Buddhist teachings, Buddhist philosophy, and Buddhist practice, as it is evident from the many people who graduated from this place to pursue further studies. There are many nuns who came here initially to build a foundational understanding of Buddhism, to learn the Tibetan language, who have now graduated and now they are in esteemed Buddhist seats of learning, continuing to pursue their studies, such as in places like Nepal. They have joined places like in Nepal, nunneries in Nepal, nunneries in southern India like Namdruling, then also colleges, institute, for example, the Sara Institute for Higher Tibetan Studies. So there are many nuns who have really made the most of their times here. And this place will continue to provide this environment and these support for anyone who wishes to pursue their practice and their study of the Buddhist teachings. So if we understand this, then we also need to appreciate that we only have a few days with each other. So this is the kind of vision and this is the kind of environment this place hopes to provide for all of the visitors and participants. And so as such, you yourselves should be able to take that approach, that you would make the most of the few days that we have with each other, and to take from this discussions and this course something practical, something actionable in your lives. Yes.
네 단다 저당이 남시다 간지 통을 때스 갈카고 있는데 미시라 용토마 데이네야 간레버데 간조와 지 간조 좀메데 단다 간조 되는 정 로지마지마지만 미시마시마 레오라 예게나 제루 게두나 젠담나 제루라 이네 알아서 데비네거리네 알아서 그 간에 텐지테 바나시게 참에 후다보다 제도 백해점으로.
So at this point of the year, as the monsoon begins in Dharamshala, then the weather isn't really cooperative. So as such, at this point of the years, we see only a few participants in the courses every year. But regardless of the fact that it's only a small group, the effort from the instructor always remains the same. So as such, the participants should also take it upon themselves to make the most of the facility provided by the Institute and to make the most of the environment that we have here to further our spiritual practices.
당한조 단다디 한조 추래 지려오라 당한조 단다 추시 추장래 지려오라 추는 지당기 추래 찍들은 담도 고야랑조 지시투는 추당지 추인다 찍당 아니 지게 타니다 담을 고야더라 이내 단당한조 추래디 로 마rum바디 추니 봐 로 마rum발디 칼라나 대차 셔당 아니 티무 봐 팅한조 베베긴 셔당신에 두숭 나오라 조한조 로 마두아 디가 왕기 아니 가서 강에 마무 치테려라 세상 먼저 된데 로로바데 뭐 손비고니 아니 딜 녀보 때네라 코란스 소스 녀보 요라 디 녀보도 때네 아니 로 마르바도 바쥐네 아니 로디 레비쇼라 샤토에나 미스나랑 오네 가서 지붕에 땡키 버려라 세상 가서 단다 강에 가리 튀고라나 아니 로 마르바도 저기 제스 주니라 온 때네 신 강에 튀고라.
So then when we talk about spiritual practices, we say that we want to now learn more about spirituality. We want to practice spirituality. So it is important to understand what exactly does spirituality mean in the Buddhist context. So the word for spirituality in the original Sanskrit is Dharma. And in Tibetan we have translated it as Chu. So Dharma in the Dharma as a word is very contextual. Sometimes it could refer to even phenomena itself. A thing is a Dharma. But in the context of cultivating a spiritual practice, then the word Dharma refers to a process of transformation as it is suggested by the Tibetan translation Chu, which is an imperative word which means to correct, to transform. So what exactly is this process of transformation? This process of transformation refers to transforming the negative qualities of the mind into something positive. Now herein it is important to understand how exactly do we transform the negative qualities of the mind into something positive. First, it is important to identify and recognize what exactly are the negative qualities of the mind. And we in Tibetan Buddhism refer to these negative qualities of the mind comprehensively as the three poisons. The three poisons of anger, attachment, and ignorance. So the spiritual process or the spiritual practice is an undertaking of on the basis of recognizing these three poisons and building a practice which helps us to overcome these negative qualities of the mind, and then to place the mind in its state, in the positive aspects, in a place where we can develop and generate the positive aspects and qualities of the mind. So that, in a sense, is what spirituality is, a process of transformation.
Ngazula nasadam yura gona kambana chike rugona ndam yura tila yebana se me chiki digimdara susu kala susu la ti pa nasadala pa khate chaya ro chirwa tila susu go me kamba me rubar bam tindwa tin na se ngazon de sha sha dan timusun de la tende lo marun ba di ngo simi goni tadila pa pa ya gi nyembo do di khar la narwa ani susu di ngo sun tuina ani ngazo lo de chele le la do shaidwa pena ngazon Döchagi nyebola döchala na khadejil la wala na ngazo chidangi tsumai be ju dota la ra tsumai be ju dota ne ngazo pegi yuji thongwa ina dele ya sele gyaba chidan yakho yoba ina ngazo gi yudi ye do wala wonsele deba jitta wondu gala ani dele ngazo chagla le wala chidangi chagla ne zamza semba dele yansi kodele ya chagla chigle do chesa dendejil la wala dende insan ngazo gi dende wi chapa dele susugi logi thongba na she mayenge susugi tsumai be ju dota yo pata yan zamza dele ta digi losho do kopa nyembo tenwa ina dele ani mudu bogom ra da ji mila chawaina mido ji zuni la chawaina nalo la tha da na da dende kan yo bado da junno no ji shenpa ji chala ji la chawaina mi gi thongba na she chi meba ra te pa ngone pa chi jaga do na shira mi jo do ji la pata ne digi nyembo do ina ngazo chapa di ma ka tu da chapa ji bola pesha na.
So if this is what spiritual practice is, then how do we exactly relate this to our daily experience? And when we look at our daily experience and the manner in which our minds function, when the mind is not subdued, when the mind is not observed, then we face a lot of problems, because we are not really mindful and aware of what exactly transpires or arises in the mind. So the spiritual process is exactly that, to observe, to recognize what goes on in the mind, and what are the negative consequences when certain emotions, certain attitudes arise within our minds. And now I will give you an example. For example, we understand that we can become easily attached to things. We can become overly attached to things. So that is the negative emotion, the disturbing emotion of attachment arising within our mind stream. So in the spiritual process, it is important to recognize attachment for what it is first. How does it function? What is its aspect? What is its nature? So when we look at the manner in which attachment operates, we begin to understand that when attachment arises within our mind stream, then we begin to superimpose a quality onto the object. We begin to either superimpose, or we begin to project, or we begin to exaggerate the appealing qualities of the object of our desire. Now, in reality, these exaggerated qualities might not really exist in the object that we so desire. So that is the manner in which attachment distorts the perception of the object itself. So in order to overcome that attachment, then it is important, from the Buddhist perspective, to cultivate an antidote which can help us to overcome that distorted perception of reality, the manner in which attachment distorts the reality of the object. So in order to come to a true appreciation of the object, we begin to, for example, if you are attached to the physical appearance of someone else, then you begin to meditate on ugliness. Herein, ugliness referring to the fact that the physical constituents of what make up a person is actually blood, bones, flesh, and so forth. And we come to appreciate the fact that, oh, maybe we are not so attached to what really makes up the physical constituents of a person. And similarly, if we are overly attached to our belongings and possessions, then we begin to understand that we project an absolute identity, a permanent identity onto the object, and as such we begin to meditate on impermanence, how the object itself is fleeting and momentary in its nature. So this is the manner in which we, through our spiritual practice, on the basis of recognizing these negative emotions for what they are, begin to overcome this by applying the particular antidotes. And this is very similar to the manner in which when we have physical ailments, physical pain, we might have headache, toothache, pain in the leg, muscle pain, so forth. And it is the case that there is no single cure which helps us, no single antidote which helps us to overcome all these physical ailments. So similarly, with regards to the negative emotions, there is no single antidote. We need to cultivate particular antidotes which can help us to overcome these disturbing emotions. Less.
아니 디 카르 무두 발라디가 예도 모 왔다 디니 따다 인겐다 차이다 겐다 딘데 인겐다 로직래 샤마투로 제마투로 세고라 야포토나 두제 토마투야도라 다야 미직래 야두니나 나니가 저다다 아코 남바야 버도 게시샤다 야보야 말라디가 유니로 차이다 유직 다가랑래 야포도 두제징 토 kalkaburuchira taine ngandu michiklele au ko keshana ya bore ko dada ya boya mare ko santa ya bo chiyo mare digala michi gala phagile netu thate bani la ngandu dila gore ya tanda di nyembola khate ko taktaji ra tende jila ngandu sha.
Now when we say antidote, it is important to understand what exactly do we mean by an antidote, and what exactly qualifies as a spiritual antidote to these negative emotions. Because it is liable that when we begin to think about particular emotions such as anger and attachment, since these two seem to contradict each other, then we might also be liable to think misguidedly that, okay, sometimes anger serves as an antidote to attachment, because at one single given moment it is impossible for these two to arise at the same time. So we might also walk with the impression that maybe anger can help us to overcome attachment. This is not what we mean by a spiritual antidote. Spiritual antidote must effectively address the negative emotion itself, and then must help us to overcome it, not to suppress it, but to overcome it. And it is indeed the case that it is impossible for attachment and anger to rise in the same given moment with regards to the same object. Of course, in our daily lives, we might begin to say that, okay, we appreciate the kind of attitude this person has, but we do not appreciate the way that he expresses them. Now, in this, we might think that it refers to the same object, but when we look at the manner in which the mind apprehends the object, it becomes two different objects. In the context of what we appreciate, we are appreciating his attitude, which is a different attitude from his expression of these attitudes. So this is important to understand. And so as such, these two mutually exclusive, contradictory negative emotions cannot serve as each other's antidotes. A spiritual antidote must effectively address the negative emotion itself.
다가나시기 단단한 시당라이시라 시당라디가 지금 밀 마가와 당한서 미들라 지기 수수다로라 시당체디가 코타린도라 다 디기 냠보데가 상발라온데가 미들라 지 타니오로라 딘데위 시당와당 칼로 제월로다 상반인데 냠도 제 두카버로시라 직전에 직 ngone로요 딘데로 차디오라.
So when we look at anger, which is aversion, we become averse to the object of our anger. We begin to develop a sense of distance, farness, and we begin to develop a sense of being averse to the object of our anger. Now, in its place, we cultivate the antidote of love. So love naturally builds a sense of closeness, a sense of intimacy. So as such, it addresses that particular function of anger, which creates a distance, creates a gap. So in this manner, a spiritual antidote must address and help us overcome the negative emotions when they do arise within our mind stream.
Tatagana ngazo timula digala timula koran ko ngo kharelana maripa mathon sebu mewaza secha dis caption ne khalo ta nakundo sugora cheza di nyebo tale ngazo tende gawena chida ngazo chuthang chikila tende ra ngazo di machine ne so rancha tu baranchu yobachi thone nga chipu dige nga chipu ne tu jenge ta tende ro jang santang ora ta sana yakpo chitang ona so chipu ji rancha wa ngazo ne matuero chikila tende ra Pero ngazo dela dewa ina ngazo de desa khoyu inare kala suni inare lekhun lia chini inare kuranzo tsalangal sodu ani modern tayore ani chiranzo langa ge pena te jingmu da to chichen chiran kale jen sa yire da khanda chil tende ro tende insa ani timule de da ngazo ching mariba na thong de de ro digale tende ro sometime tespa se cher ro tende chili ge sa ra nyimbo.
So now when we talk about ignorance, then ignorance is literally in Tibetan not knowing. So this exactly touches on the function of ignorance. Ignorance clouds our perception of reality as it is. So as such, it obscures the object of comprehension. And as such, we are not able to apprehend or to perceive the object clearly. We are not able to understand it clearly. So as an antidote to ignorance, we are advised to cultivate contemplation on interdependence, how everything comes to be through a network of causes and conditions, how everything does not come about on its own, how everything depends on causes and conditions. And this is indeed true when we begin to relate it to our own daily lives. When we do not know the causes and conditions which gives rise to a particular situation, particular feeling, particular emotion, then we are ignorant, and on the basis of that ignorance, we begin to suffer more as a consequence of our reaction. So if we have an appreciation of the interdependence of all phenomena, how everything must come from particular causes and conditions, then we will begin to appreciate that we as human beings, as individuals, are not so self-sustaining as we think to be, not so independent as we think to be. Because it is indeed the case that when we lack an appreciation for this, then we begin to become entitled. For example, when we come to such a place like this, in this environment, it might be the case that we might feel a little bit entitled to the services that are provided here, and saying that I have expended so much time, effort, and money to come here. So as such, I am entitled to these services. And that is not really a helpful attitude at all in your relation with the people around here, with the participants and so forth. So in its place, to come out of that kind of ignorant attitude, if we begin to appreciate that even though I have come and expended a lot of time and effort to come here, it depends on the labor of so many people, the effort of so many people, the kitchen staff, the office manager staff, the effort of so many people that this gathering and this course is possible, then you can begin to develop a sense of appreciation of the environment and the time that you have here. Les.
Chezanta ngazu di nyembu do santane ro khari phendo yorela na one ro di nyembu de penan de jeshana timusul di nyembu de santane ngazu le khari phendo yorela na ta jewa ngashi keleni ji na ro susugi ta dinde yin de jeshana timu ange draw ina ngazu le nyamba sa ani maung pa ina jewa duje le do sosu ngin so do dogwe do ro ta krange jewa shima kem le ni mane mombo ro Geshema ke malene tandegi tule kira dinde samtawena kira mitsudala deja shedan timusu ge wand majuni soso dile nyembo ten rotuwena mitsudi chiwushina rotuda ra tanda deja shedan timu di mabuji kashi ge kala ta digi jis juni Chito Nalo Kangi Tini Mambo, Jangan Lini Mambo, Rasu Missile Kangi Tini Mambo, Topo da Tomo the Tarin Tani Mambo, Sansan Katini Mambo, Tizu Sama Karela, the Jesha Timu Gira, Zanda Mariwangi, Zanza Chabewangi, Zanza Shedangi Wangi, then in Nini Lapa Chipo Mayanke, Kanzi Koati, the only rate of the Sanoch Tangra. Ani o the redusana, one is selling Jordan. Shambakoji, the Nadi, the little something else, Ping Mara.
So now, at this point, as we now understand the importance of recognizing the disturbing emotions, which condition and influence our actions, and on the basis of that recognition, then how it is important to cultivate antidotes in the spiritual process, then it is important at this point to understand the purpose of cultivating these antidotes. Purpose herein referring to understanding the benefit of these antidotes, cultivating these antidotes in our daily lives. Now, from a Buddhist perspective, the antidotes are important because as Buddhists, we accept rebirth, past and future lives. So a Buddhist approaches it in this manner that if we are able to effectively cultivate these spiritual antidotes in our lives, it can help us not to engage in further negative actions, and as such we restrain ourselves from accumulating negative karma, which has an effect on our future births or future lives. Now, this is strictly how a Buddhist approaches it. Now, there are many people who do not accept rebirth or who do not agree with the concept of rebirth at all. So it is important to kind of understand that there is a purpose and place for cultivating these spiritual antidotes, even for people who do not accept rebirth. Because when we look at our lives, many of the problems, many of the sufferings that we experience really do come from our actions being conditioned and influenced by these disturbing emotions. This is a fact that all of our problems, all of our sufferings that we experience are influenced and do arise when our actions, attitudes become conditioned and influenced by these negative emotions. Because any kind of emotional distress, any kind of suffering, any kind of setbacks, challenges that we face do come from either a sense of attachment, a sense of anger, or a basic sense of ignorance about the situation, and more as a consequence of our reaction to these setbacks being conditioned by these negative emotions. So it might be the case that we engage in something illegal, end up in jail. It might be the case that in our relationships we become angry, then the relationship begins to suffer. Then we begin to affect other people's interactions and relations because we develop a sense of attachment to these situations. So any kind of setbacks, challenges, emotional distress that we experience really do come from these negative emotions. So if we understand this, then it makes sense, it makes practical sense to find something that can help us to overcome these negative emotions when they do arise in our minds. So that is exactly the purpose and place of antidotes. And it is important when we are having this discussion to be able to relate these discussions to our own experiential, to our own daily lives, to relate to this discussion experiential. It should not be the case that I am saying a lot of things and then you are saying, okay, she's saying a lot of things. That should not be the case. That you should be able to relate this to your own life. Is it really the case that whatever kind of setbacks, distress, emotional distress that I experience, is it really the case that it comes as a consequence of these disturbing emotions? And if we are able to relate to the discussions in this manner, then we can look forward to gaining something actionable, something practical insights, actionable insights from the instruction and discussions. Last.
pena pechunro shawena ra chidang ngazan zamni gala kangi mangbu chi yor ra pena chi chilo ja da sanyo ja da te shu khoi ra kangi chikle ta ngala mi tön sha ju kangi mangbu su da ra pena chi jekap chi la waju chini phage di sacha de nga sayal chabe ong ra dinde chini ani phage la waju chini phage la ngaz kalo ta yang chabe ong dinde sun chi re yang 찍지 야제도도 한들라 막아는 타도로 라 들에 시당로 치네야 파길에 세야 두야 라 아니 디선은 범로 샤 담을 지기도 든 상말에 아니 미 파기기 잘라들라 차선체는 꾸막고야도 라 뒤에 가르래 올라나 잡혀온글리도 다세야 두야 두에 가리던 진짜 잡아던 데이고 진짜 콘섬 찍긴 되어메바 말해라 야 딘데기 왕게 양 파길라 칼로 yula chomchom chaya to wadang dede ya shirang gone yung chora susu magani ra kate chaya to da dizu tsangma ninja gane yung gola na maribi wangi di decha da kondro da dizu yirwa dizu be shu cheta chene ngoye ne zu yu ngoye ne zu le chima chishya de mato ne an lega noti mabu chigara cheta dizu tsangma adu di chido nga ranzi tongo do ra shizo nama.
And now, with that being said, I'm not saying that there are such things like environmental disasters, natural disasters, and the suffering that is brought forth by extreme many of these are indeed man-made intervention. But really, when you look at the global situation, many of the crises that we face globally in this day and age is indeed man-made. Man-made conflicts, man-made wars. So how do this man-made conflict, man-made suffering come to be? It comes from these negative and disturbing emotions arising in the upstream of people. For example, a nation invading another nation, a nation declaring war on another nation, a nation attacking another nation, can be informed by a sense of attachment to the other nation's territory, resources, and so forth. Could be motivated by a sense of jealousy, anger, could be also motivated by a sense of attachment. When you look to identify strictly along the lines of differences in value, and you begin to become very averse, very angry each other. So all of these kind of global crises, really when you look at the root of these problems, it is these negative and disturbing emotions arise within the community. And when we investigate this further, Buddhists would say that all of these problems, even if they are motivated by a sense of attachment, greed, anger, aversion, jealousy, at their root, they come from ignorance. This reading, all of these subsequent negative emotions arise only when we do not have a full appreciation of the nature of reality. When we do not understand reality as it is, then we go to the sense of attachment that aversion, the begins to be distorted. Like will on the nature of reality as it is due to these surprising human industry.
시제 문제가 지금으로 도저히 기능이 제대로 너무 밀래 배행이 저리고 아버지네 지금 사진 보관을 또요 맨날 이상 쓰리게 되고 건강을 빼서는 이제 끊죠 뭔가 답이 들리죠 나야 아버지 맞네 미 지면서 아니 되게 제주도 아니 zamza jinsa sama ma shasho de ne mo sho de ne ka o re na bo re tu de ne ma de ne jin to sta ro tu di sho re ma di sho re tu di de ko ma di de no de ne ma pa ka che ya no de kan yo se ro ta na de se ni chen ni ta ma de ya re mo tu di di ne ka se jas de kan ja ta de no no de ma ene ko shi de se go ko ke ma she do ro yen ine na de de ne su so be je de di de na bo sha 아니 뭐가 다 그거도 죄도 너무 상 나같이 어떻게 하면 먹을 수가
So when we look at ourselves as human beings, then we can understand that human beings compared to languages and to other sentient beings are blessed with a very unique and powerful intelligence. And it is important that we learn with this basic intelligence that we are blessed with towards something positive. But it is the reality that when we do not really understand the power and the power of this intelligence that we are blessed with, then this intelligence really is the source of our suffering. For example, even though this intelligence helps us a lot, but at some point we begin to disregard this intelligence. We seem to lose very basic common sense. Human beings foolishly begin to identify simply along the lines of differences. So I'm saying that those he lives in the East, he's different from me. I live in the West. Then because he's white, I am black, he's different. I am on this side, she's on that side, so we are different. Well, I have allegiance to this particular faith, he is a solution to that particular faith, so we are different. And when we begin to place so much importance on this differences that we have, then there is no really common ground on which we can begin to appreciate our shared humanity. And this really is the source of many of our sufferings. And we also sometimes begin to, we also sometimes we fail to appreciate that we do not really have a long time on the face of this earth. Maybe the average person lives up to 60 or 70, and it's the lucky ones maybe lives up to 80 or 100 years. But we live our lives as if we live for eternity, which somehow what we do, and what we do, we will keep continuing doing it for eternity, permanently. We approach our activities this way, we approach our plans for finishing. As such, we begin to fail our own basic reality if we are not on the face of this earth forever. And if we spend the short time that we have on the face of this earth strictly identifying along the lines of differences rather than appreciating the shared humanity that we have, well, maybe that is not a meaningful life.
그때는 치당 가지다 저거잖아. 이제 저래 되다. 그래서 나 밀래디 저거 잡아서 이거 따사야 그냥 무지 같은 거 따사야 뭐 뭐야고 돼. 남긴다고 돼. 와. 제가 점점 이제 되게 내가 듣고 책도 디베트 제일 이제 주요이나 내가 서서 와서 지금 지내는 거 세트는 그 주주돈 지시하게 이 나오는 때문에 와 아주 미치네 이거 약간 미치는 사람들 있죠. 네, 아주 다음에 약간 산이 되는 거 주마 되는 이제 사실 쓸 거야. 네, 딱히 나와서 수술 가지대 하다 봤다도 그냥 아주 잡아내서 시작이요.
Because human beings in some ways really are not realistic in the manner by which they live their lives. But as such, sometimes human beings are really crazy. Just when we look at the animals, maybe the manner in which the animals live their lives is more sensible sometimes because they know contentment. For example, an animal knows and knows how to be content when they are no hungry, when their basic sustenance is taken care of. But human beings are not so sensible in that sense. They lack contentment because they have so many plans. We have 10 year plans, 20 year plans. And even when their basic sustenance is taken care of, they are not content. They need to have something to show for. They need prestige. They need fame. They need to save for the future. And they have so many plants, which, when you look at it, it's not very sensitive for it, because we fail to appreciate that our lives are really, really uncertain, that our existence as human beings is uncertain. That is the reality. We fail to appreciate that, and we live our lives with 10-year plans, 20-year plans, as if it is a given, as if it is certain, which we will live this long. And then we project fixed ideas onto our future. If things do not turn out in the manner in which we expect it to be, then we become disappointed. Then we become distressed. And we suffer as a consequence. So maybe it's better to adopt a realistic attitude which takes into account that life is very uncertain. And approach it in this manner. Do you think this is true? So we are here together and we are all human beings. So it is important to think, say this indeed to ourselves. Because many times in our lives, we take a lot of things for granted. And when we take things for granted, then maybe we are holding ourselves for a huge moment of dissatisfaction, a huge moment of regret. So now it is important to note at this point that we also learn to appreciate shared humanity that we have, not just with regards to ourselves, to future generations. So when I say that it is not sensible to make fixed things, I'm not saying that we should not make any plans at all. What I'm trying to say is that if we indeed do make plans for the future, we should make meaningful plans for the future, realistic plans for the future, which are not concerned only with our own sense of prosperity, our own sense of immediate gain. Maybe we can make effective plans for the future generation, wherein we work towards leaving the climate, environment in a better shape for the future. These are realistic, effective, and meaningful plans, as opposed to the plans that we personally have. For example, most of our plans maybe is concerned simply selfish gains and also a selfish sense of being prosperous and so forth. And when our attitudes and motivations become shaped by these selfish concerns, then our actions become very constricted, and then the manner in which we relate to becomes sort of a reaction to whether these selfish concerns are secure or not. And then we are always maybe reacting angrily to these are individual our concerns and interests and motivations. As opposed to that, we cultivate an attitude which is accommodative all possibilities. We cultivate an attitude which is open-minded enough to think about others, which comes from a place of concern for others. So this is what I mean saying that we should not make unrealistic, ill-advanced plans with sensible, meaningful, effective plans. As first for it's important that we as human beings learn to appreciate shared humanity that we all have and learn to not to always strictly identify along the lines of differences that we have, but to appreciate our um, the commonality that we have as being humans. As human beings, it is important to also appreciate that we also have the responsibility to develop harmony in our interactions with others. Not, not by harmony herein, I'm particularly referring to religious harmony, communal harmony. Because many times we have a sense of allegiance to our own spiritual traditions, to our own community, to our own religion. So as such, we develop a sense of prejudice, and then we begin to become too attached to our own spiritual traditions, and then we begin to develop the attitude of identifying along the lines of differences. And then this gives rise to a lot of problems, interreligious conflict, communal conflicts, and so forth. This comes, I think, from our days of ignorance. So rather than strictly being so close-minded, minded like that, even if you identify as a spiritual person, even if you identify a particular tradition of spirituality, then it is important to be secular in our approach, be open-minded to learn about the teachings of other religious traditions, and to appreciate that at their core, all of these different religious traditions have the same message of having love, passion for your fellow humans. Because when we really look at all the religious traditions, at their core, that is the shared message. That actually no religion actually goes against this. They all teach us to have love and passion for our fellow humans. And if we appreciate this, then we maybe do not really operate from that ground of ignorance to look at religion as being a contradiction, or identifying strictly along the lines of differences saying that's not the religion. By that perspective, it's important to develop a sense of respect for that shared message. And to this does not mean that you have to be a spiritual person. It does not mean that you're none. As a human being, whether you are a religious person or not a religious person, we can appreciate this message because these have core human value.
시대 모양인 거라. 제가 근데 이제 아니 시대를 선생님이 시험을 선발에 빼이 나도 뭐 괜찮고 될것 같아. 제가 선발에 제가 매원 여기를 당만 공부도 되게 되게 나도 같은 거 이해가 없어.
And all of these religious traditions, all of these different spiritual traditions, at their heart have messages of peace and harmony. And this thing, this I think is what humanity desires, firmly desires. Humanity desires peace and harmony. Now, if we as human beings are to develop harmony between ourselves in order to achieve peace in our societies, then we cannot, it is not possible without first developing wealth and compassion for our fellow humans. So this is the root cause of peace and harmony in our society. Having love and compassion for our fellow beings.
그리고 말로 쉬어야 되는 괜찮은 이유가 얼마나 쉬어야 되는 솔직히가 얼마나 이거 죄가 진짜 야 쉬는 거는 좀 준다고 말아 비슷해서 그저 이게 좀 세상 저기가 그래도 다른 이제 다시 계획이래 내년에 와 아니 완전 지낸 그거 계획이 그거 계획이 단지만 또 가네 어떻게 다 나가 있는 내용 와 근데 다른 말을 가르치면 너무 말이에요 레벨링 맞서 수행이 저 다시 계획나도 말하자면 레벨링 계획나네 이제 그거 계획나는 단지 어떤 내용에 참 지우신데 이게 좀
And now, when we are talking about different religious traditions, I think from the point of, from the point of, from the perspective of spiritual practice, I think all of them share the same message. That's the common thing that we have. And that therefore all spiritual traditions, all religions, have the message of love and compassion. Now, that being said, with regards to tenets, with regards to philosophy, maybe there are differences. For example, certain religions, religious traditions do not really accept rebirth, past and future lives. Then some religions believe in creator, some religions do not believe in a creator, and some accept karma, some do not accept karma. So, irrespective of these kind of philosophical differences, maybe we take, maybe it is more important to appreciate the fact that whether we agree or not on these things, it remains a fact that we have to live together on the face of this earth, on the face of this earth. And if we understand this, then maybe we begin to understand that it is pointless to kind of strictly focus on the difference, but to appreciate the common things that we have in each other, and make the appreciation of this common ground basis upon which we can build, we can generate love and compassion for each other. And on the basis of that, we can develop peace and harmony between ourselves.
可是没想这里有一个这个系列的这个是有的挺两个有喜欢的，咱们这没有写过这个，但是像这没有那个社会了解了，谁也对啊，这你这听不到了，这根本那个通知你的，那这个了，在你怎么介绍这个单位，如果刚通的话，你就我这个保证的写嘛的，就是这个现在东莞这个保证搞不到。 사실 주임에서는 안 주면은 이거로 받치면서 직접 주세요. 와. 어쨌든 따스한 단어들 이제 맛이 미미는 시고요. 제가. 그래서 나란지 믹스고. 와.
It is really important to understand the importance of having love and compassion for our fellow human beings. And we will begin to appreciate it more if we think about it in this level. But it really makes a difference when we have love in our hearts for fellow human beings. Because if we have love and love in our hearts for fellow human beings, then immediately uh, anyone who approaches through with a sense of intimacy, with a sense of trust, with a sense of confidence, as opposed to our minds being consumed by anger. If we are influenced by anger, if our minds are influenced by anger, then that immediately creates a sense of fear in other people. And that is the sad reality of books. Human beings are not afraid of each other. This is because there is a lack of love between the human beings. There is a lack of love for fellow human beings. For example, think about the fact that if you travel and then you arrive in a no man's land, there is no human society nearby. And then if you run into another human being, would you be relieved? And as you approach the other human being, would you believe or not? Now, this depends on the fact whether another human being or you yourself have love in your heart for your fellow human being. If the other human being does not have love in their hearts for you, then this interaction now is an interaction that is defined and marked by a sense of fear about each other. It should not be the transaction. It should be the case that human beings should be able to grow intimate with each other, grow close with each other on the basis of faith and trust. And this is possible only when we have love for each other.
그래서 우리에게 우리가 주변인 바 주변 무슨 차를 지는 것도 뒤에가는 그 미기 주도 마마지도 된 중요해. 와 그다음 이게 된 거. ndapolo lobje la samo lo ga tan tan de ge lo ko kwa de de lobje du ja la de tan yu di ta cha ji de wa zong cha lo de sang de de du la da na na cha me bu chun ju ji ne lobje de ba ya ko chi ge so yi de wo chu ni ge che ye wo de che pe ke ji mo ba che sa sama yi ne ku ge che ran de me lobje ya ma je ani ti ta de ma ti ni shi sho lo shi ji ku la de 然后也想现在想这个教的理解的那个理解，那种完了这个输入变得最单了，是吧？另外这个我地方那个理解嘛，别单单讲的真正这是个过程，是吧？说你在学习的这里的这个讲究的，那个后面你在多会被个。
That being said, it is a fact that we run into many people whose behavior and attitudes are uniquely dominated by these negative emotions. And we look at these people as children. But it is important to understand that they are also part of humanity, because humanity shaped them into what we are as a person. The environmental conditions when they were young, the messages that they received when they were young in the formative years, influence and shape them to be what they are, and influence and shape how they behave in their interactions with other people. So, as such, based on this understanding, it is important to understand that we need to place the importance on teaching these inner values, these four human values to children when they are young. That children learn to appreciate this. Because I think that in the modern context, there is a lack of this kind of education. There's an importance on those inner human values. We place so much importance on academics, which is strictly geared towards professional achievement and professional geared towards some sort of professional achievement. And when we motivate and educate our young generation in this manner, when they grow up to be adults, then they become very competitive with fellow humans. And when they become competitive, then they begin to live their lives in this manner, which I will compete with others to achieve what I want to achieve. And if I do not achieve and attain what I want to attain, then I'm willing to do whatever is necessary. You lose all appreciation for what is called ethics, what is called a sense of concern for fellow humans. So, as opposed to that, I think it is important that in the modern education, we also learn to kind of place equal importance on educating the younger generation on the importance of inner common values that we share with all human beings. So if you agree and appreciate this message, then it might be the case that you yourself might have children, and if you do not have children, maybe you have nieces and nephews, cousins, younger cousins. So it is important that we share the importance of this message to the young people that we are related to, and that in our interactions with them, that we kind of are able to demonstrate these values to them. And if we're able to do this, we should not really discount the effect of these interactions and these messages that we share. You might think that, okay, how can I really affect the change by sharing this message with one person? Maybe we can think about it as society as a whole is made up of individuals. And if we are able to share a message to one person, that person might share it with another person. And then in this manner, 10 people might begin to appreciate this message. Right? And in this manner, we can begin to affect change. So in our interactions, we need to be able to demonstrate the importance of this message. Now, that is enough of this. I want to share it. At this point, as I always like to encourage the participants, maybe we begin to introduce ourselves into the group. And by introducing yourself to the group, I would also like to hear the expectation on which you approach this course. What exactly do you want to learn from this course, and what is the purpose with which you are approaching this course? This I want to hear for everyone. And I think this is important because one, it helps to kind of recognize to each other. It is also a little bit better. Two, as an instructor, I find it important that I take advantage of your expectations, to your motivation with regards to and I expect to the point that accommodate your wishes and your expectations Lots like personal text, especially. Maybe so it's one of you. But also about the institutions in which you are usually speaks. Start from here.
Yeah. Good evening. I'm Kishan. I live in Delhi. I'm an accountant by profession, and I'm also engaged with in running a school. Um, this is my first course on Buddhism, so very very new. But um, yeah, so very new. So just here to learn anything.
The Brahmin visual was there's a daily list. And the Brahmin using the negative Zipa, the content Zipa is what data young the Brahmin operating is the list. The Brahmin Chilkangi, Mashula Saba Saba and Sla. The object is the nature of the young cherries. Jezani Mashula, Saba Sajan in Sla. There is Sabashina in the
My name is Sharma. Graduated psychology from the university. Of course, I am also experimenting very recently. But one of the things I did come across was that there's a huge emphasis on empathy, understanding others' perspective and they feel. So, through this course, I'm just trying to deepen my understanding of empathy and maybe be able to use this to relate to others and be able to be that space for others.
Brahmin is we Brown on June the symbolic of the sensation of this ostracism. There were me at the Mamuchi the Nature. We did to do now and shouldn't that. Then in the Lade mission, some shape of some shape of mission that Susu mission that she never Susu Pandit was a relation. That is so on some ship in some ship chamber. Nay, Tonan, the project Philippines. Jesa Prami, they get the Masla. Ara, the possession, which is they don't some ship for the mission that she is also reaching out to one and they let in the ones we got some shit. Jenny, she won't big, very like it like they carry the water mission.
I'm from Germany. I'm a teacher in childcare. I work in the kindergarten. Yeah, with children from 1 to 6 years old. And I took the beginner course at Toshita, as I said, and the teachings of the Buddha, they resonate so much with me that it made me
The exam is Germany is what may from Chile against the 우수하는 건 것이고요. 경험하자 멋지게 못하고 이제와 이거 수준 있어. 이 그런 때문에 멈추면 되겠습니다. 부시다고 나 내 마주는 좀 지금 마주치. 이미 지나다 동바시에서 그거 이미 숨기지와 이미 막슈리 와 그런 무슨 뭐 비슷한 부분이 있어. 제가 아니까 이거가 미 많아시네. I don't think so.
I'm from Belgium, and also from Tushika, and I'm here to gain some tools to live in a more altruistic way and less selfish. and to take tools with me in my professional life. From the week of Belgium is some Tushita Zilch Shuche, Tushita, yes. The ground the maybe will flow the Nanshu Java very nice love. So, message from Champagne the law. Shuchim Gebe the condition of Jeb Wella, Pinpoint, Marshall, Township. Then you have use. This foundation of data machine project around the Gachi Nagachi is about and for kind of nature to that. You did check this.
Is Shiva and I think my most expectation in this is how I got the understanding there is a person because a lot of my knowledge is from books and internet and I want to make it be it's going to be hard.
It's not problem. Grounding on a Shiva is not it's real. Grounding from the non sugar watch and non sugar Podoja. It is something I introduced. Nice in the Kandabo, non sugar Podon, just careful job. And then internet never, Tajani motor to Japanese. But then that then I need Geshema Dawa Dolma, Geshema Dawa Dolma, it is tema of some Bruce. In it all the higher like Susi, needed in the same, but I may it about today you may shoot. I'm never shoot on them. Yes, you Bruce.
Now I'm working at something. And my expectation from school is to finally stop running from this test and face it head on. Because it's been a funny journey last year. Like I came across this for the first time last year, and now it's been good. On the Diwali, I picked the Shiva, and then I tried to make the book very quiet for me, and I kind of understand this. Returned it to the library, and then I was volunteering with certain months with conversation process, and somehow I asked him, okay, what is that changed your life? And then the mission of the I don't buy my family, and working with systems, so now is my time to find something and understand.
From was from David language in the language in this one. They tell to some of our this. In the ground, you need to follow the when you want any sour day or lobby man and young good day was on sour sugar. No, that's what the market. So the Marlon Chijan Chin did it was no much not some such. And when you are from Dharamshala of literature, children by the Diwali, it is any chicken around the table test was strong. In it, the Tamoto and so much Yangado into so slow. Yamala should have Mojino, yes, which is I need is to sort of lawyer the body shooting with the Moscow. And it had been long and Pasha and Benzo about the motion is like it's Jella and so he is like the deputy, no shooting is like. Like it's just a during my made this research and around the shooting tissue. Need a ball in this one. Research with one, moving on to change 주제 대송하게 보고 있어요. 제사가 준주를 뭐제 준주 텍스. 이 제사가 다 제나니 개들도 이스마나하고 와샤샤니 에드니 무슨 스포스가 제사니 라디오라는 수로는 여기 지금 뭐저 지라하고 있고 상황이 되시고 있습니다.
그래서 진짜 제가 전에 되게 생각도 근데 이제 아니 다 지금 뭐라서 추위에 인지미지겠지 다가로 오시네요 공제가 일단 근데 지내 좋아 봐요 지금만 더 그래 근데 조딩 하고 있지 어른도 수로 보면 바로 봐 미년도 좀 쓰시고도 먼저 생기다 보자 이렇게 좀 봐. 조딩은 그대로 봐. 지금 맥주가 주주기도 또 이제 바닥에 맥주 우리는 때는 봐. 좀 쉬어요. 그래서 우리 요한 그렇게
So I will address all of this sharing these issues tomorrow. Now, as a conclusion to our discussion, I want to say this: when we say spirituality, when we say cultivating a spiritual practice, then spiritual practice does not necessarily mean that we have to stay in a place of function, have to assume a certain position, and that is not really what spirituality is. Spirituality is whether you are out and about, whether you are in your own house, in your room, whether you are walking and directing and spending some time with others, or whether you find yourselves alone. Spirituality means taking care of our own minds. This is what spirituality means. I'm not saying that that we should never stay in a place of worship, meditating and such. These are not part of spiritual practice. In a sense, spirituality means taking care of our mind. This is more important.
내가 산이랑 그때 보면 무슨 난 소변 아니 지난주에 내가 됐지 로야가 저기 나를 또 해도 됐지 도는 봐 가지고 소식도 아니 아직 다시 있잖아 니가 싶더라 근데 아니 네가 나랑 이제 빼고 내가 지금 못 두고 나 내가 보고해 봐 저는 지금 다른 거 내는 거 진짜 땀 내는 진짜 땀 내는 남시하고 이거를 잡아서 빨리 잘 되나 그런 지금 내가 가야지 먼저 쏘고 그래서 자행이 되고 이제 공부를 이 자행이 되고 시작이 시행이 지치고 와. 그래서 먼저 다시 이제 나쁜 게 나와. 내가 뭔가 다른 자기가 내가 진짜 가야 돼 지금 먼저 되는 거라.
So now I want to encourage all of you to make yourself familiar with the root text itself. If you when you go back to your rooms, maybe try to find some time, either in the evening or in the morning, to kind of read through the text and see how it resonates with you. Does it really relate to you? And does it make sense to you? And try to take a read through the text itself. And if you're able to do this, then maybe we can have a meaningful discussion when we actually explore the text. It is my intention to make it worthwhile all the time, all the effort, all the money that you spent to come here to attend this course, in spite of the weather. It is my intention to make it worthwhile for you. I really appreciate the time, the effort, and the energy that you dedicated to come all the way here to attend this course. So I will try to explore each of these verses word by word with examples, trying to get the meaning of this text. And this is my responsibility. But as we understand, two hands are needed to make the sun happen, and we should also find the time to read and study the text on your own. That is your responsibility. Did you get a copy of the You have?
아니야. 아무래도. 봐. 아니, 다 상이야. 저기 언제 아니 근데 시 저기 봐. 아니 양도 그 뭔지 아니 건다다 아니 그 레미션. 예, 언제 또 또야. Lagi susah. Ini chance. Pada kita masih itu apa?
So now, with regards to the shift of the self, the first session in the morning is a meditation and prayer session. So you need to reach the led by a man, the meditation session, and you will also participate when you join the prayer session. They conduct here daily. And the evening meditation session will also be facilitated by imams, Asunipu, which will be themselves. And now, outside of this, you should find the time to do text on your own. So we will end the session with the meditation prayer, which is number 31. Okay, reminder one, see you tomorrow.